Welcome aboard, everybody. The Systems Change Finland meetup for September, titled Making Sense of Conflicts and Power in Systems Change. As you can see, there's 30 people online at the moment, and we're getting started then with Paula Rossi. Those of you who are here have possibly already kind of are familiar with what we do at the association, but there's the idea kind of in a nutshell. So Systems Change Finland Association seeks to cultivate a society that can deal with systemic and complex challenges. Our purpose is to promote the application of approaches that help people, organizations, and society understand and work with systems and complexity. So Paula Rossi graduated in 2005 from the Centria University of Applied Sciences in Haapajärvi as a Bachelor of Business Economics in Marketing and Communications side there or program. 2014 from the University of Lapland, Rovaniemi, as a Master of Administrative Sciences in Leadership Psychology, and in 2021 from Tampere University as a Doctor of Administrative Sciences. Paula is interested in systems thinking, systemic change, public services, complexity, experiences, narratives, and conflicts. Her doctoral research focused particularly on understanding conflicts in the development initiatives of social and healthcare services and the development of sustainable public service systems. Paula Rossi is currently working as a postdoctoral research fellow at Tampere University and as an assistant professor at the University of Vaasa.
Today's topic is making sense of conflicts and power in systems change. And I found this Sensemaking meetup a really important and a good place to kind of test your ideas and try to reimagine the concepts that we use. So conflicts are not necessarily the kind of the easiest concept to grasp on, and I'm pretty sure that we all have somewhat different interpretations and understandings what conflict would look like and what it means. But my idea for today is to kind of give you a brief introduction first on the concept of conflicts. And then, so the first part of my talk will concentrate on reimagine the concept of conflicts. And we will be looking also power and power relations within the service ecosystems. My research has focused on social and healthcare development initiatives and social and healthcare service systems, but I have tried to kind of frame this talk in a way that I hope that you will be able to grasp some ideas, regardless on what is your kind of substance area. So, but forgive me for giving the examples from the social and healthcare sector that comes quite naturally. We will start with this picture. I think this reminds us what conflict might look like. The other person looks a bit like Donald Trump. That was not intentional, but it might be also a kind of illustrative example of how we understand conflicts normally. So two people fighting openly and trying to kind of find a way, or hopefully to find a way to somehow manage the conflict or the conflict situation. So here's a battle going on, but when I have been studying the conflicts in social and healthcare sector, I have tried to understand the systemic change of public service ecosystems. And often we tend to rely on cooperation and coordination, collaboration, co-production, co-creation of value, co-design, and such concepts and ideas to develop our services and to foster the systemic change. But what I think that is missing from these also scientific discussions is the approach of conflicts. And later I will try to explain first why there is a need to understand conflicts and cooperation at the same time. And also, I hope that this first part of my talk will ignite some ideas how to approach conflicts differently, so reimagine the concept and what we mean by it. So let's get started. What we saw in the first picture was a battle. And often in organizational context, we understand conflicts as something that are visible and addressable, manageable public events, where there are winners and losers. Someone is right and someone is wrong. Conflicts might be destructive for the people and for the organizations. Often there is some kind of avoidance going on, negotiation, power over is being used. And this view on conflicts also addresses linear causality. So there are some things that can be controlled and managed in order to move on. And in battle view on conflicts, there can be someone outside that conflict events who has the power and who can command and control the events. But what this kind of a metaphor of battle hides about conflicts are the hidden and informal private meanings that people hold, all the private aspects and emotions that are related to conflicts and conflict experiences. The battle metaphor of conflicts hides also the dynamic and evolving and relational processes that are related to the conflicts. It also hides the power with, so it hides the fact that we all have some kind of an influence to others that are involved in that particular context or situation. And there might not be anyone kind of outside, coming from outside, that could resolve the conflict or who holds the power to address the events or the situation at hand. So conflicts are emerging from human interaction, and interconnectedness and uncertainty are present when conflicts emerge. So when we are looking conflicts through the lens of battle, as in the first picture, we often don't kind of understand what is going on in everyday life of the organization. So I think that this is important to realize, that we should kind of broaden our perspective on how we understand the concept of conflict. I studied conflicts through the metaphor of music. And music is something that reveals different things from conflicts than the battle metaphor does. So when conflicts are revealed or studied through the metaphor of music. It highlights the human aspects, so the human-centered view on what is going on and how we feel and how we live and how we experience the conflict situations we encounter. So this view highlights the expectations we have towards ourselves and others, the experiences that we encounter with, also the sense making of conflicts and conflict experiences becomes important. Different institutional arrangements of individuals are creating the conflicts, and that relates to the variety and diversity of us humans who are involved in organizational life and also operating in service systems. The metaphor of music also kind of highlights the fact that doing things differently or thinking differently and approaching conflicts is helping people to develop their organizations and develop their actions. So there is a need to focus on not only on cooperation, but also to what is different. And hidden meanings and silence also are something that contribute to the experiences of conflicts. So we must understand the fundamental diversity of us as individuals. We make subjective interpretations, or our expectations vary, and our experiences are different than those of others. Also, this kind of understanding of conflicts highlights the fact that conflict experiences are inevitably also bodily felt. So when we encounter conflicts, we don't necessarily rationalize them in a sense-making process in one's mind, but we feel the conflicts in our bodies. Conflicts also inevitably are connected to relational processes. So society forms people and people form the society. And there is a need to also understand how the experiences are developed and emerging from the relationships that we have. And someone has said wisely that the quality of a system depends on the quality of the relationships in it. So looking at conflicts might give us a better understanding of what is going on and what kind of relationships do we have, who holds the power and whose thoughts and feelings are kind of emphasized over others, or who has the right to express their views and expectations within the particular context. So conflicts become relational, felt meanings and lived experiences of differences in institutional arrangements. So we as people hold different aims and values and different beliefs, practices, assumptions, and we bring these differences into our relationships with others. Conflicts are a consequence of the diversity of us humans. And therefore, conflicts, as well as cooperation, are a fundamental part of everyday organizational life and the complex social systems we operate in. So we are turning our view from the battle towards the experiences and the differences of people. From my point of view, conflict happens regardless of the level, as a personal experience. So when we bring these differences, different institutional arrangements, ours to the relations that we operate in, the differences might threaten our identity. So these processes, regardless of the level of the conflict, should it be interpersonal or intra-group or intergroup or organizational level, it always comes back to the one experiencing. When someone holds different values or different beliefs, different aims and practices than we do, our identities become threatened. And this might lead to kind of often strong and often negative emotions, anger, frustration, even fear. And these kind of feelings and emotions are not easy to express or manage, or to even kind of admit to yourself, maybe. And because we are differently positioned in our relationships and within our organizations, conflicts also always relate to power and questions of power. So who can express their conflicting views? Who holds the power to operate based on their values and beliefs and assumptions and practices? Who are involved within the organization or within the service system? Who holds the power to kind of move things forward, and whose institutional arrangements are the ones that we are following when we are operating and making decisions and taking actions within the organizational context. So to conclude the first part of my talk, I think that it is highly important to move the focus from the escalated events, as in the first picture, to the felt meanings of people and how and what these reveal about our institutional arrangements. What are our values? What are our beliefs and practices? And how we can operate based on those. Are we allowed to express our emotions? What these emotions, how they reveal what is happening in everyday organizational life, and how we could better take into account what it means to be a human in organizational life. So from escalated events to felt meanings is something that the concept of conflict should also cover. That was the first part of my talk. What I will be talking about next are conflicts and power in systemic change. So we would like to have conflicts, even though they can be destructive for the people and for the organizations, as the battle image on conflicts suggests. But we would like to have those because they are necessary drivers for systemic change. So when people are reflecting and making sense of the conflict experiences, they are at the same time making sense of what is happening in organizational life and how things are changing, into what directions, whose values, beliefs, aims, and practices and assumptions are at stake or to be protected or to be changed. So the diversity is something that we need in order to actually develop our organizations and service systems. We don't want everybody to be the same, or we don't want that kind of a thought collective to emerge that doesn't allow any diversity, because through that diversity and through that thinking processes, things might change. So I want to emphasize the relationship between conflicts and systemic change, because through cooperation, we have a lot of possibilities to actually develop our operations. But if we don't critically address the conflicts, we might not see things that should be addressed. In this PowerPoint image, there is this pyramid and the ball. And I think it's a good example of a kind of thinking that needs to be changed. So we have built our organizations and service systems also hierarchically, and we often rely on positions of power, and we often rely on command and control, and we should be able to change that. And therefore, we would like to address conflicts and invite all the diverse people to discuss and share their meanings, and kind of find a way to approach the conflicts and what is going on in practice, what is happening behind the doing, and into what values and beliefs and aims and practices our actions and decisions are based on. So we need conflicts in order to reveal what is happening. So we often focus on the doing part, so the macro part of organizations. We try to develop our practices and ways of doing, and we evaluate our decisions, and we try to understand the actual actions. What we could do with conflicts and the focus on conflicts is through focus on the micro level activities and experiences of people, we understand better what is happening at the meso level and service ecosystems. So it might sound strange that by focusing on experiences and people, we can actually understand better the service ecosystems. But in order to understand what is happening around us and in our organizations and ecosystems, we should turn our focus on humans and the relationships and our experiences, and reveal what is happening at the being, how we are as humans in organizations, what are our values and what are our beliefs and practices. That guides the way that we operate and make decisions. And here that relates to power also, because not everyone has an equal possibility to express and operate and make decisions based on their own values, for example, or develop their practices in a way that might be useful for the organization. And the more people there are involved, the more there will be cooperation and the more there will be conflicts, because we are different. So that brings us to the elements of systemic change. These are the elements that I have drawn from my PhD research. So if you are interested to find out more, there is a link to the research at the event information. Feel free to dig into deeper that one. But briefly and hopefully really practically, the conflict view on organizing and ecosystems change reveals the element of polyphony first. So we need to understand what stakeholders are involved. Have we considered them all? In public sector and in social healthcare services, there is often the case that it's the public organization, be it a municipality, for example, who is in charge. And even though there might be a really a need for the private sector organizations and third sector organizations and for the citizens to participate, we are not used to take those stakeholders into account, but they are operating at the same service system. And if we are trying to foster systemic change, we need to take all those diverse accounts and stakeholders to be involved with the change attempts. We could also argue that it's really difficult for a stakeholder, for example, be it a public organization, to foster the change in service ecosystem level. There aren't any one particular organization that could command and control everyone who is involved in the service ecosystem. So it becomes important to actually map who is involved and what is their position and how they could contribute to the systemic change. What are their values and beliefs and aims and practices, what they are doing in order to foster the change. The second thing that becomes important to realize is the locality or the context. So we need to take into account where does the action and the organizing take place. So the context provides these guidelines for the people, for the organizations, and for the ways they can operate and make decisions. So who are the stakeholders in that context? What are the limitations and enabling factors within that context? So if we are about to foster a systemic change or systems change, we need to do that in the context. We cannot scale it to other contexts as such. So we need to take into account the special factors within that particular context. Thirdly, we need to understand the relationality and make sure that we understand the relational nature of systemic change. So do we understand that when, for example, one organization changes their way of working, or the legislation, for example, changes, do we understand that how it influences us and others within that same service system? So we are not alone. We are in relation to other people, to other organizations, to other stakeholders within that particular context. And we need to understand the relationality that takes place. So when the system's quality is determined by the quality of the relationships within it, well, we need to understand that that's the case and turn our focus on the relations. And finally, what we need to do in order to foster systemic change is to stop and think about what we are trying to do and for whom. And do we know that what institutional arrangements we are trying to maintain, disrupt, or change, and how how we do understand that our actions are influencing the other people also. So we need some critical reflexivity, and we need time to stop and think about what we are doing and how and for whom. So that is one important aspect when the systemic change is looked through the concepts of conflicts and also through power. Because if we don't focus on what is going on in everyday organizational life and how our actions and values, beliefs, attitudes, and practices are influencing and how the change, constant change is happening, then we have just a little possibility to actually be on top of the change. So if we want systems to change, we need to change the way we think about the systems. And I believe that it is crucial to turn our focus to people and the relationships within the service system. So here is the second part, and now I would give the floor to you and would be eager to know what you were discussing during the break or the breakout rooms, and maybe time for questions and answers.
Thank you for the presentation, and thank you for the nice discussion in our small group. And I really liked the idea or the concept of polyphony and the metaphor of music, like in these conflicts. I have been solving many conflicts in organizations, and it's always difficult. And sometimes you succeed, but most times there must be something else that seldom you can really create an innovation or create something totally new through those, normally what I have experienced. But now the concept of polyphony, like we talked in our small group, that you have to go higher or lower in a different level to see and to understand and to reflect. Because if you are in there in the same level, probably your own feelings are and you are so involved that it might be difficult. But when you start hearing that what kind of polyphony we are hearing here, so I think that is really nice idea to start searching and exploring that what do we have here in this situation, in this tension, in this conflict. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think it's also an illustrative example of how the power with works. So when within polyphony, you have these different voices, and they represent kind of the they are equal, or they might be taking into account equally, but so there aren't any one voice that overrules the others. So that's why I think it's important to kind of take into account the multiple stakeholders' voices and explore how they could be given the same kind of value.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, the topic, if I have something to say, or
sorry?
Can I? Okay, if not, if there is nobody talking, can I say something?
Please do.
Yes, of course.
Yes. When we talk about conflict and the change, it sounds that it is very rational topic. And when we come to the table for the decision maker to decide on the change and to make, we expect that high level of rationality that we talk about the common good. That is how we think about the topic, but actually it is not like that. We are not that rational human beings as we expect ourselves. We are more irrational people. There is one component called the ego, which always in the background and controlling our decision in a way or another. And that is one obvious reason for not the change to happen. That is one obvious reason for the conflict, is that we expecting to see change when this part come to the light and everybody has to be speaking himself or herself out loud, expressing their emotion. And that is actually a very ideal situation. It doesn't happen. So how, yes, and this is where it comes things into conflict, and we are stuck and not there because of these ego hidden agendas. And in that situation, we need some kind of guide how to get out from that kind of shadow and to make the things happening. Sometimes it happens by itself when we are all, whatever our agenda, or we are facing one common or external need. It can be a threat or fear. This is what brings us to unify and to work as one team. But it is not always the case like that if we don't have that external unifying thing. So we need to find internally what unifying our agendas, even at the ego level. Meanwhile, these questions is not answered. We are expecting conflict. We're expecting obstacles. So we need to bring this irrational topic to the discussion somehow, or to the academic point of view, because in the reality, this is what you see. So I'm not sure what could be here helping. I don't have solution myself for that, but I'm expecting you might have something.
Yeah, we often wait the conflicts to escalate into events. So, and when they are escalated events, they are difficult to address. So it would be beneficial to address the conflicts not as escalated events, but felt meanings, and try to reflect on the differences that we have. So that way we could address conflict experiences earlier on within our organizations or within the service systems, and try to kind of understand what is going on before the situation is escalated into a difficult one. I think that is something that Vesa also mentioned just before your turn, that he has been resolving the conflicts and they are not often resolvable. So they are escalated. Yeah.
So this is really nice idea. Then we could have let's say 3 levels of conflict, and the first level is differences, meaningful or significant differences, and the second level is a tension, and the third level is a conflict. And now we should start like the new paradigm is that we should be seeking for these differences and enjoying and exploring them, and then we can use them in a good way, and we can profit out of these differences. But if we let them grow into conflicts, then it might be too late.
Escalated conflict. So we need to take those into account when there is someone who actually just realizes that someone isn't thinking the way that you are, and tries to reflect on that and tries to understand what is happening there before it escalates into this battle situation.
This means in every situation there's someone who is gatekeeper, who might keep the traffics between these different power or extremes, and That is what the missing point here. Who is this? And how much he can have that kind of power to that, or respect from the others for the say that now this is a cutoff point. Now we need to do that. This is leadership. And maybe in the organizational side, it's easy to find, but in the political side, this is a little bit completely different story.
I think that it's really nice. But at the same time, you don't have the mandate if you don't have conflict. So for example, I had last Friday, I had really good talks with a colleague from another organization that we've had really difficult time with, and I think the first thing to resolve something, or the first kind of positive steps were after we had the conflict. We decided that no, hey, this is a conflict that we have here, and how we approached the situation was that we kind of vocalized our own feelings and went from there on to explain, or not to explain, but to kind of reflect on where the conflict and the feelings come from, and then we went on kind of trying to find some remedy for these things, and we found out that we have organizational deep distrust between these organizations and different actors that aren't us, but are really high up the hierarchy in our organization or in our parent organizations. And how should we kind of start to remedy those situations when we are at the bottom level of the hierarchy? But yeah, I agree with the Vesa and Paula and everything that's said here.
And that's why I think thinking about the social and healthcare organizations, the position and the actions and decisions that are taking place at the professional level with the customers or the patients or the citizens. The role of professionals is crucial, because if they can do their job so that it supports well-being for the citizens, for example, it should be their core priority, but we should actually see if they can operate based on those values and towards that goal. Because if they can't, and if the institution or the service system doesn't provide to them the support they need and or the enabling factors that they need in order to do their job in a way that promotes better well-being for the citizens, there is little room for the professionals themselves to actually try to accommodate their work practices, because they need to be supported from the systems level and from the organizational level. But there are also, you need to take into account legislation, for example. That's something that you just have within that context. So you cannot do certain things because you are not allowed to, and you can do certain things because you need to. But then if you look at conflicts and how the professionals actually feel and interpret their position and how they can operate and how they can change their ways of working, there might be a possibility to the change to happen at the organizational and systems level also.
I have one question. What do you think, what is the minimum viable understanding of these issues in order to go forward with the change, what you do? Because sometimes we're stuck in some place and don't move anywhere. So what's the minimum things to go forward when we want to bring change?
What will bring the change of systems, or?
Yeah, some kind of system which has an aim.
I would say that the minimum would be the critical reflection and stopping to think what we are doing and why. Because if we continue doing the same things that we are doing, even how good the practices that we have are, we cannot change if we don't stop and think why and how we are doing things. So that is the same in all organizations and all sectors. So I think that's the minimum.
Yeah, so because it's important to get moving.
And the change is happening one way or another, but if you look at the conflicts and try to reflect and understand what is happening, then you can pinpoint the places that need more attention, so you can actually grasp the power relations that need to be changed, or the ways of organizing our activities. If we don't stop and think about how we are organizing things, then it becomes difficult to actually be a part of that change.
Yeah, we talked with Vesa-Purokari also there that conflict is a good thing when it puts you to think, and then you can able to bring you a new level where then you can find the common things. So for innovation people, conflict is just what we need.
Yeah, and it's also important to recognize that conflict is not something that is necessarily happening between two persons or two groups. Or it could be an experience of incompatibility between technology that you are using in your work and the values that you hold that are guiding your work and decisions.
Yeah, it can be said that organizations is always in a conflict in many sense. Let's say money-wise and well-being. These two powers are quite often in conflict, and or people think at least that they are in conflict, and it creates a good discussions quite often, or at least some discussions and reflections. But then I have one more thing about this conflict, like as Kari said, it is a good thing, and it creates something new. And sometimes when there is a conflict that is stuck, that people can feel that there is a conflict in this organization, but nobody is talking about it. So then somebody has to bring it up and visible and open and like seen, so that you can start talking, and then things start move, like Kari said, that it must be moving somehow, and then the result might be that somebody leaves the building, leaves the organization, and then we feel like it's a disappointment that now we didn't succeed to solve the conflict because somebody had to leave. But we should think that like something needs to die so that something can emerge, or be born. So in that sense, the leaving and even having a catastrophe ending means that there is a new birth.
Yes.
Not all conflicts are solvable, so that might be the best option or the best solution for someone to quit their job and just leave. It's not that I think we cannot assume that we or someone in organization could hold the power to tell who is right and who is wrong, and kind of resolve those escalated conflicts. It might be they might be solved through discussion and open discussion, but there's also that relates to power too. So someone might fear for their job, for example, so they might not be able to express their feelings, or it's impossible to arrange a mutual discussion in a way that all parties are equal, because someone always holds more power than the others. So it might be really difficult to address them.
If I try to put what you have said and what also bring it as an issue that we need to keep forward to go to make decisions, and also based on what he said, if we put all this together, to make all the time resolution or compromising between the different conflicting parties, that is a wish, but it might not happen all the time. And someone has to make the decision to go forward. And that is where the leadership has to come in place, that maybe it is one person who has the most power to say, this is how we will go and let's go. And this is sometimes will be comfortable for the rest, but here it comes at a common spirit, a common belief that we are in one boat, and even we are in different opinion right now, but meanwhile we make this decision to go, everybody has to do his best to make this happen. That is the next level after the risk taking for the decision maker, that he made a decision that after that, everybody has to do his best or her best to make this is happening. This is a common spirit for the team. And if we don't have that, this is actually the time when we have real conflict. When after we make the decision to go in one direction and still some others are taking the other direction, this is the break point. That is where the consequences of the conflict start to evolve. But make a little bit of leadership or one single person or decide on something, it is actually needed.
Yeah, it might be the minimum that the leader or the manager who holds the power has the ability to stop and think what is happening and what is going on and how to move forward. So yes, they are, the leaders and the managers are in a position of power in a way that they need to, I think we need more understanding of the differences of people and more reflexivity on what is happening before the conflicts escalate. So yeah, good point. Any other comments or questions?
I would like to point out that quite often the conflicts are there, even though everybody is trying to kind of think, everybody thinks that they are driving for good for all of the people involved, but we have so different viewpoints on what is good and what is all and so on, and what are the right things, and we don't convene these different viewpoints, and that's where I think most of the conflicts actually derive from. So yeah, that's when this kind of what was the term that you used, when everybody is invited as an equal? Polyphony. Yeah, that's when we need this polyphony to kind of create this shared map or understanding of what do we actually have here and what can we do to change that.
Yeah.
Perhaps one issue it was already raised, but it's important to understand that the conflicts are not only between the people. They, as you said, Paula, they can be on knowledge level, structural level, processes level, technology level, not compatible technologies, even vision or networks. And sometimes we don't see that. And then we should, I think, find the way how to change the structures or the technologies or whatever they are. So humans are only one part of the conflict.
Yep. We are experiencing the conflicts, but we are not the only ones involved. There might be other stakeholders, technology, structures, nature, even.
And one thing that I've been talking with CEOs of multinational companies, etc., and even they say that they don't have the power of doing something, even if they want. They have internal conflict, how they have to act because of the structures and the guiding system around them. So that's a really challenge, a real challenge.
And what we measure is what we get.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, this sounds a lot of like recognizing your privileges as well, and kind of giving space in like for those like people or organizations that are holding these positions of privilege and like the upper hand in many cases where if you want to seek, like, I don't know, more consensus kind of situation in the end, but that's a very complex issue as well. At this point, we might want to kind of finish the official part with the event with a really little kind of advertisement as well of the association. So Systems Change Finland can be found, as Mikael put the slide here, and you can see that on Facebook, Twitter, Slack, everywhere, the kind of our official channels and so forth. So we have a web page at www.systemschange.fi, and then we have a Facebook group where we have a quite lively discussion going on from time to time, and events, advertise, and so forth. So the recording from this event will be available as well. And then you can obviously join the association at the systemschange.fi website as well. But we'll be finishing now with the official kind of event here. The last advertisement here, Systems Change Finland Annual Action Planning Workshop, is in October, the 5th of October, from 4:30 to 6:30, as you can see on the slide. Thank you for this session. It's been very good. Thank you, Paula. Thank you, everybody who's here. Excellent. It was good to have you, Paula, here.
Thank you, Paula.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening and commenting.
Thank you.